What if everything that you've been told about working longer to retire safely is actually holding you back? I've spent a couple of decades helping successful international families plan their ideal retirement. And here's the truth that I keep on seeing. People delaying retirement because they're scared of recessions, scared of running out of money, or not having enough to truly enjoy their retirement. So they work longer thinking that that's safer, but that just a few more years mindset, it can actually cost you your health, your freedom, and years that you'll just never get back. And here's another twist. Most retirees don't actually spend their money the way that the old rules say they should. The psychology behind how and when to spend your money matters just as much as how much you save. Retirement isn't about chasing a gigantic number. It's about having a smart, flexible life strategy that enables you to enjoy your ideal future with your energy and your freedom intact. In this video today, I'm going to explain why working longer to be safer might be your most expensive mistake. I'm going to explain the real risks of delaying retirement and how smarter spending strategies can help you retire earlier and enjoy it more. But first, I want to address just a few common misconceptions that hold lots of retirees back, because if we don't, the rest of this won't make sense. The first is the notion of I'll just work a few more years. Now, many of us believe that working longer is the safest and the most responsible choice. This type of thinking is prevalent amongst those with either vigilant or commitment as our money scripts. The logic goes, the more years in the grind means the more income and the more time to build savings, and the greater the financial security for ourselves or for our loved ones when we finally step back. It feels like pressing a pause button on the risk of running out of money in the decades and decades to come. I can personally remember professionals who've pushed back their retirement dates because the markets were volatile or because they were worried or anxious that their savings just wouldn't last. It's very common to hear somebody say, I'll just keep on working until I'm absolutely certain that I'm ready. But the reality is that a few extra years of work can come at a very high cost that isn't always obvious upfront. Working longer may feel like you're actually buying more time, but in many cases, it actually takes away from the very years when you can enjoy life the most. The physical and the mental toll of extending your career, the increased stress, the declining health, and the less job satisfaction can significantly reduce your overall quality of life and well-being. The late career phase often brings greater fatigue and less enjoyment, which means those extra paychecks may just not be worth paying the price. Furthermore, delaying a retirement can make the transition to a life without work more difficult. The longer that you stay in a structured, demanding environment, the harder it is to adjust to the freedom, the pleasures, and the flexibility of an ideal retirement. Instead of assuming working longer is the safest path, consider perhaps creating two different detailed life strategy scenarios. Life strategy scenario A, you retire at your planned retirement age. Life strategy scenario B, you work a few extra years. Then compare not only the financial impact, but also what those extra years mean to your family, your health, your happiness, and your freedom. And then reflect on these. What matters more, earning an additional 3 years of salary or having 3 more years of freedom when you're still having the energy to truly enjoy it? And use these different scenarios to make a more balanced decision around the different trade-offs that you might want to make, instead of just using the gut feel or going on the financial data alone. And now onto a second important misconception, and that's I'll just follow the 4% rule. Many retirees believe the 4% rule is a timeless, one-size-fits-all solution, the gold standard of how much they can safely spend each year. And the idea sounds simple and reassuring. Withdraw 4% from your nest egg annually, adjusted for inflation, your money will last 30 years. But in reality, this rule doesn't match people's real lives or goals. Take Jane, a 52-year-old partner at a Dubai law firm with $4 million saved for retirement. Her former investment advisor told her to just follow the 4% rule, withdrawing $160,000 a year like clockwork. On paper, it looked safe and very simple, but Jane's vision for retirement wasn't steady or uniform. She wanted to travel extensively in her early years whilst she was still healthy and energetic. She also wanted to contribute to her future grandchildren's education and downsize her home later on. Her spending needs were going to shift over time, and a rigid rule wouldn't accommodate that at all. You see, the problem with the 4% rule is that it encourages underspending early on in retirement, which means that people can often die with 2 to 5 times more money than they started with. And that's not a sign of careful or professional planning. It's a sign of lost opportunities, of unlived experiences and missed memories. Instead of enjoying their savings and the life they can afford whilst they still can, many people follow these rigid online formulas that leave their money untouched. This overly cautious approach can even lead people to delay their retirement unnecessarily, fearing they don't have enough saved when they actually do. So, don't let outdated formulas dictate how you live your retirement. Instead, build your spending plans around what you actually want your life to look like in the future. Think intentionally about the experiences that you want to have, the support you want to provide to your family, and the lifestyle that's going to bring you fulfillment now and in the future. Flexible spending strategies that adapt to your goals and your changing circumstances will allow you to make the most of your money and your retirement. And by the way, if you're a high net worth individual thinking about retirement in the next few years, we put together a free high net worth individual retirement checklist to help you decide if you're closer to retirement than you might think. You can grab it using the link in the description below. So instead of following these outdated approaches, here's how to actually retire well with clarity, confidence, and control over your ideal future. Firstly, you need to understand that spending in retirement isn't linear. It moves in phases. Don't assume you'll spend the same amount every year once you stop working. In doing this, you end up planning for a constant, overinflated annual budget that just doesn't reflect how spending naturally changes over time. When we mapped out Jane's retirement in more detail, a much more realistic picture emerged. In her early years, her active years, her spending was projected to exceed the $160,000 that the 4% rule allowed. This is because she planned to travel to attend events and to make memories while she had the energy and health to do so. But by her 70s, she'd likely slow down. Fewer big trips, more time at home, and reduced discretionary spending. And by her 80s, most of her expenses would centre around essentials and healthcare. By modelling these phases in detail, Jane got the confidence to spend more in her prime years, knowing that her future needs were already properly built in. These 3 phases represent the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years that I've talked about in previous videos. Planning with a flat spending rate ignores this natural rhythm and leads to overestimating how much money you actually need each year, and ultimately how much you need to save. So, when you plan your retirement, model your spending in phases that match your expected lifestyle changes. This approach will give you a much more accurate, flexible picture of your cash flow needs in the future and will help you avoid locking yourself into unnecessarily rigid and conservative future withdrawal rates. By embracing this phased spending, known as the retirement smile, you can spend more freely during your peak years, including doing important things such as gifting to your family with a warm heart instead of a cold hand, without worrying and having the fear of running out of money later, because you've properly planned for the natural decline in expenses that typically follows. Secondly, use the guardrails strategy. Many retirees stick rigidly to the 4% rule because they wrongly believe it's the safest and most reliable model. They often think flexible withdrawal strategies introduce unnecessary risk or complexity. But in reality, the exact opposite is true. Flexibility can be your greatest asset in retirement planning. So, how did Jane actually put this into action? Well, initially she planned to stick with the 4% rule, withdrawing $160,000 every year regardless of whatever was happening in the markets. But after working with a fiduciary financial life manager, she adopted a more dynamic strategy. Instead of a fixed withdrawal, Jane used the guardrails approach, allowing her income to adjust based upon market performance. She also built a war chest of bonds or fixed income and cash to cover a few years of essential expenses to weather any market downturn, giving her the absolute confidence to weather volatility without the need to ever sell investments at a loss. The guardrail strategy is a dynamic spending plan that responds exactly to how your portfolio performs. Here's the gist. You start with initial withdrawal rate, for example, 4.5% of your portfolio. If your investments do well and your portfolio grows, your income can increase, but only within carefully set limits to keep things sustainable. If the market does take a hit, your income adjusts slightly downward, but you don't have to sell equities at depressed prices because you're drawing from your war chest of bonds and cash. This method helps protect you from sequencing or sequence of returns risk, and that's the danger that poor market returns early on in retirement can severely harm your long-term financial security if you're forced to sell investments at a loss. By smoothing income and withdrawals through the different market cycles, this guardrail strategy reduces that risk substantially. Start by building your war chest, covering a few years of essential living expenses in low volatility assets like bonds or fixed income and cash. This cushion allows you to ride out rough patches within markets without dipping into your main portfolio or your family fortress, your growth engine, at exactly the wrong time. Next, think about implementing guardrails, the upper guardrail. If your portfolio is outperforming, consider increasing your spending within preset limits. Enjoy more of your money. The lower guardrail, if your portfolio declines, reduce withdrawals slightly and then lean upon your war chest. This flexible approach to retirement income not only maximizes your lifetime spending by up to 22%, but it can also give you the clarity and the confidence to retire earlier. You know that your income can adapt with market reality, reducing the need to just keep on working just in case. And if you're serious about making the most of your next chapter and you have over $1 million in cash savings or investments, we offer a 90-minute retirement strategy session personalized to your specific situation. We'll help you map out exactly when you can stop working, how much you can safely spend, and how to turn your portfolio into a flexible income plan. You can use the link below to book your free call. So, now you know retiring rich isn't the goal. Retiring well and living richly is. And with the right life strategy or plan, you might already be in a much better position than you think. But how can you actually know when it's time to stop working? Well, in this video next, we'll walk you through 10 clear signs that you should retire earlier than you think, including a few that most people completely ignore.